Glenn Curtiss, the father of naval aviation, and Wilbur and Orville who? Come join me for some fun in the Finger Lakes today and as we tour the Glenn H. Curtiss Museum located just outside of Hammondsport, New York on the southern shore of Keuka Lake. Glenn Curtiss was a brilliant inventor, including bicycles, motorcycles, airplane engines, and the hydroplane, which he flew and landed right here in Keuka Lake, and also for the Navy. We'll learn more about that later. And after many years of feuding over patents and rights to the Wright brothers, by default, Glenn Curtiss lost the title First in Flight. A destination due for all motorcyclists. A quick shout out for Andy and Randy. I am so sorry that I lost your footage, but I wanted to tell you, thanks for the interview and safe travels on your sober ride. Now on to our tour, The Dawn of a Legacy. As you enter the museum, the reception desk is to the right, and then the beginning of the tour. Well, you have to walk before you run, and you got a bicycle before you fly. And by the way, check out the Indiana Jones display with some of the memorabilia from some of those wonderful movies. Just before the vintage bicycle display, don't forget to stop in at the theater and learn more about Glenn Curtiss history. As an avid inventor, Glenn Curtiss started in the bicycle realm and moved on to motorcycles and became one of the fastest men on earth right here on Keuka Lake. He was the inventor and patent of one of the first motorcycles called the Indian. These patents would become his nemesis with the Wright brothers as he left the road and flew into the air. Look at these motorcycles. Aren't they the coolest things? From an engine that was developed right here in Hammondsport by Glenn Curtiss. As the patent wars continued with the Wright brothers, Glenn Curtiss was grounded from all aviation and flight options. He continued to build motorcycles and to expand his knowledge and his production of engines. And here he is, the fastest man alive then. And in 1908, the crossover to a vehicle from a motorcycle happened with the June Bug. After being grounded for years, Curtiss got around the patents by redesigning the flaps on his airplane. And his business began to take flight, literally. As the competition between the Wright brothers and Curtiss continued, World News reported that Glenn had announced that he would fly the 156 miles from Albany to Manhattan, and he would equip his plane with flotation devices, just in case he had to land in the Hudson. And Curtiss made the trip successfully, including flying around the Statue of Liberty. However, the first in flight was defaulted to the Wright brothers due to Curtiss' refusal to fly on that day due to the wind. And in 1917, Curtiss became the most trusted man in aviation history by transforming how we went to war with his planes that flew over 400 miles per hour, and they could take off and land on the ships. Take a look at the earliest models. The painting scaring the fish actually depicts one of the earliest flying boats. This became a flying boat, take off and land on the lake. It is the Curtiss Model E, called the Flying Fish. Inside the museum, you will see lots of propellers, all generally wooden based, all the engines that were created by Curtiss. And in 1912, Wilbur Wright dies, and Orville blames Curtiss due to the ongoing lawsuits, and it heats up, leading to the bankruptcy of Curtiss. Having no money, but lots of ingenuity, and the success of the June Bug led Curtiss to no other than Henry Ford himself. So in 1914, Henry Ford and Glenn Curtiss began building engines together. This financial backing spurred Curtiss's ingenuity right into World War I. Take a look at what Curtiss the inventor would do with that financial backing. Glenn assembling the Curtiss Model H. Glenn Curtiss with the flying boat, 1922, with Long Island, New York. Glenn Curtiss with Henry Ford with the Curtiss flying boat, 1915. and Curtiss A-1 Tryon, first U.S. Navy seaplane. Curtiss employees and naval aviators. Circa 1915, Curtiss Airfield, right here in Little Hammondsport, New York. Have something vintage or antique you need restored? Stop by the restoration shop near the exit right here at the museum. As we head towards the exit and look at some of the merch in the gift shop, just take a quick look as you walk by of some of the history right there in Hammondsport, New York. So after checking out the history, go check out the gift shop where you'll see that Wilbur and Orville Who shirt amongst other merch. As you exit to the right out of the museum, you will pass the airfield where the June bug touched down 22 years prior to the death of Glenn Curtiss in 1930. His final resting place is here at the Pleasant Valley Cemetery. Here is the entrance to the Pleasant Valley Cemetery, which actually is behind Route 54. It is the modest cemetery, is the final resting place of Hammondsport native Glenn Hammond Curtiss, an American hero, 1878 to 1930. Follow Glenn's ingenuity and inventions on the Heritage Trail in his name. Well, thank you for visiting the Curtiss Museum with me today. I hope you enjoyed your tour. There is so much to do and love and see here in the Finger Lakes. It's so much fun, so join me in my next video.